Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Exterminator, written by Destroyer Matron Mark 8. It's a living weapon, archivist Skuggs explained as they ran. Skuggs was a hiffle, a small, furry creature. All 6 of his feet ended in dexterous hands. Hiffles were small, barely a meter long. Half of that meter was his tail. An apocalypse made flesh. "And you want to waken up," Yora panted. "Are you insane?" Yora was a Scylar, a 2-armed biped. She had lavender skin, red hair, and gold eyes. She considered herself pretty healthy, but she was having trouble matching the Hipple's breakneck pace. Not that his haste was unwarranted. They were all about to die. "No one wants to wake it up," Skuggs assured her. He juked into a corner and left. "The thing in that pod is an existential threat, a monster from another galaxy. No species in all of history is more dangerous." "Then why are we running to wake the thing?" Yora demanded. "Because no species in all of history is more dangerous," Skuggs explained. "The Exterminator might be the only thing here that can stop the Zakta." The station's alarms were still blaring. Green warning lights flashed in the corridors. People of all sizes and species were running through the corridors. Some were moving towards the escape pods, but most just seemed to be running around in a panic. Yora saw a troop of armed and armored security officers jogging in formation with weapons drawn. They looked less panicked than the civilians, but not by much. The Isubu Research and Archive Complex is one of the oldest and largest scientific stations in the Coalition. Scientists have been studying and storing artifacts there for nearly 400 years. It was far more heavily defended than most stations. But Yora knew these defenses wouldn't be enough. The Zakthar swarm had come, and they would not be stopped. "That's assuming it doesn't decide to kill us instead," Yora pointed out. "For Gliver's sake, Skuggs, you call it the Exterminator. How could this possibly be a good idea, and why do you want me along for it?" "Good idea," Skuggs snorted. "It's not. It makes no sense, you're a saloon. This is an act of desperation. I believe that we have little under 15 minutes before the Zaktar breach the station. Our brave security officers will fight, but they will not win. We will be slaughtered horribly and then eaten." They ran for another minute. Then Yora remarked, "You still haven't answered my question." Gliver, she was out of breath. Skuggs wasn't even breathing hard, the jerk. Yora suspected he'd been running much faster if he didn't have Yora tagging along. "Why do I want you along?" Skuggs flicked his tail in amusement. "Are you sure you want to know?" "If," Yora huffed, "you don't tell me, I'm slowing to a walk." "Have you heard the story of the fall of Gigamar?" the archivist asked. Gigamar? She'd heard of the Gigamar ascendancy. It had been a multi-species empire like the Galactic Coalition. Yora didn't know much more than that. She shook her head. "They were a mighty empire," Skuggs lectured. The archivist liked to lecture. Yora had been working for him for 6 months, and in that time she'd received more lectures than she'd heard in the 6 years of higher education. "The Gigamar ascendancy spanned a full 10th of the galaxy, hundreds of species working together, with technology that eclipses our own. They were so powerful that they decided one galaxy was not enough. The ascendancy had a simple policy. Every sapient species they encountered was either incorporated or destroyed. History likes to label them as a glorious empire, but like most glorious empires, they were violent conquerors. They were fond of automated armies. They sent self-replicating combat drones to every corner of this galaxy, and vast swarms of them were dispatched to the galaxies closest to ours." The archivist looked at Yora expectantly. She didn't have the breath to comment, so she nodded and waved at him to continue. "It was a mistake," Skuggs lectured. "Less than a century after the intergalactic swarm was launched, the Exterminators came. The Exterminators informed the Ascendancy that their drone swarm had wiped out 36 species before they found it, and killed millions in the war that followed. They further informed the Gigamars that every person responsible was to be delivered into their custody. The Ascendancy laughed. The Exterminators came with a mere 2 million ships, a drop in the ocean compared to the overwhelming might of the Ascendancy. They made a counteroffer. They told the Exterminators to offer themselves up as slaves. Nothing less would satisfy the Gigamars after being defied so insultingly. The Exterminators did not take kindly to that response. They declared a war of extinction, promising to eradicate every member of every species in the ascendancy. No one would be spared. I'm guessing you're huffed. The exterminators won, for Cliff's sake. How much further was she going to have to run? Oh, yes, Skuggs confirmed. Like you wouldn't believe, the entirety of the Ascendancy's automated forces were turned against him. They had conventional fleets as well, of course, but their ships were powerless against the exterminators. The war was lost in just under a year. The Ascendancy begged for mercy, but the exterminators had none. The exterminators were true to their word. It took 3 decades, but in the end, not a single sapient of the Gigamar Ascendancy survived. The exterminators took care to make sure that every spacefaring species in the galaxy knew what happened. They warned us that they would come back if anyone dared to send anything to the Milky Way again. Then they left. He noticed her confused frown. The Milky Way is what the exterminators call the Hudua galaxy. What does any of this have to do with... Yora had to gulp air for a few seconds before she could finish the sentence. Me! Oh, right. Archivist Skuggs slashed his tail as he remembered the original question. The Ascendancy fell almost 2,000 years ago. We thought the exterminators were gone, but 2 centuries ago we found one of their ships with a live specimen aboard. Its biology is surprisingly similar to yours. I'm hoping the sight of you will make the creature less likely to kill us. What? Our knowledge of the exterminators is limited, Skuggs elaborated, but we do know a few things, the most important of which is this. An exterminator always has one of 3 responses to the creatures it meets. It'll either kill it, pet it, or... The archivist trailed off with an awkward expression. Or what? Yora demanded. Or it will, it'll try. Archivist Skuggs curled his tails in an apologetic fashion. Breed you. What? Yora didn't have the breath for a proper outraged exclamation, but she did it the best as she could. I'm not saying that you have to breed an alien, Skuggs said quickly. I'm just hoping an attractive female will make it hesitate to kill us. He pointed ears, perked up, then went flat. We should run faster. I can't. Yora's lungs were burning. Her legs were on fire. She'd been sprinting for minutes now. Fear of the Zaxthar was all well and good, but there was only so much a girl's body could take. On the other hand, something about the Hiffel's expression sent a bolt of alarm down her spine. Why? It would seem that I was wrong about my earlier assessment, the archivist explained. The Zaxthar have already breached the station. Oh, scat! Yora could hear it now. Faintly, screams and blaster fire, horrifyingly high-pitched squeals. Yora had never seen a Zaxthar in person. You could tell by how she was still alive. They were ridiculously strong, frighteningly quick, and wielded a variety of weapons that seemed to grow out of their bodies. Everything from claws to stingers to plasma blasters. Security might hold them off for a few minutes if she was lucky, but Yora doubted it. Yora found that she could run faster after all. 2 more minutes saw the screams and squeals get a lot closer. Yora didn't hear any more blaster fire. Security was probably all dead. To her immense relief, Skuggs came to a stop. This is the place, said Skuggs. There was a heavy security door in front of him. The little archivist typed into a keypad. The door opened with a hiss. The room was dark, but the lights came on when they entered. It was a small space, 4 meters deep and 4 meters wide. Yora looked back into the corridor. The screams and squeals were louder now. The Zaxthar were close, too close. The sounds cut out as the security door slid close behind her. The only object in the room was a stasis pod, a big, boxy-looking thing, alien design. The pod stood upright. The front of it was clear. Yora could see a fearsome-looking creature standing within. The creature was a 2-armed biped like Yora, male. His skin was an odd pale pinkish color. He had thick, dark eyebrows, but there was no hair on top of his head. He was big, over 2 meters tall, with arms thicker than Yora's legs. His brow and his jaw were thick, giving the creature a brutal, thuggish appearance. The exterminator, because what else could it be, wore metal armor. At least Yora thought it was metal. The armor was green. The armor left the exterminator's arms bare, revealing corded muscle. Guns, knives, and other dangerous devices were strapped all over the creature. There was something primal about the man in the pod, predatory, barbaric. The sight of it would have set Yora's pulse racing if her heart wasn't already pounding from the run. Good Cliver, what a terrifying thing. Even in stasis, he radiated danger. The ship we found was inoperable, Scruggs remarked. A derelict. The other exterminators were all dead. The only reason this one survived is stasis pod had its own power source. A power source that lasted over 2,000 years. Can you imagine? This time, Yora's pause had nothing to do with the catching of breath. Are you sure that we should wake him up? Not at all, Skuggs assured her. I just think it's our only chance. He regarded Yora for a moment, ears flat with fear. Maybe you should strip first? What? No. Yora scowled at the archivist. Why would you say that? Because species that wear clothes find nudity distracting. Skuggs pointed out. His ears flattened even more. I'd like the exterminator to focus on you, if possible. It's not happening, Yora said firmly. Open the pod already. Archivist Skuggs wilted as he approached the stasis pod, slowly reaching out with trembling fingers. Hiffles were not a warrior race. They were intellectuals, cowardly intellectuals. Yora had been surprised the archivist had even come up with a plan, let alone tried to implement one. Hurry up, Yora urged. The Zakthar are coming. Archivist Skuggs hesitated for a moment longer. Then he opened a control panel on the side of the pod. He pushed some buttons. The pod hummed. The door to the stasis pod slid upward. There was whirring noise and a flash of light. The exterminator blinked and opened his eyes. Dark eyes, sharp. They latched onto Yora. The exterminator moved so fast Yora barely had time to yelp. He surged forward, snatching the woman by the throat and lifting her off the deck. He pinned her to the bulkhead with one beefy arm. He was strong. So strong. It felt more like being grabbed by a robot than something organic. The creature said nothing. It just glared up at her. Yora struggled, but she might as well have been fighting a statue. In a moment, she realized that the exterminator's strength wasn't what she should be scared of. She should be scared of its fine motor control. The man had pinned her to the bulkhead with fingers that felt like they could bend steel, and he'd barely constricted her airway. His expression was not of rage or fear. It was of furious calm. Yora came very close to peeing her pants. After a long few moments, Yora tried to speak. She managed to say, "Please, don't kill me," in a much calmer tone than she'd anticipated. The human answered in a language Yora didn't understand. He tilted his head and closed his eyes. A moment later, he opened them. "You're not with the Gigarians." His voice was deep, resonant, lethal, and scary, and oddly melodious. "There are no Gigarians," Yora told him. "You killed them all 2,000 years ago." The exterminator's eyes went wide in shock. The man quickly schooled his expression and asked, "Where am I? Who are you? And where is my ship?" Yora tried to swallow. She gagged and coughed. The exterminator frowned and set it down. It took her a few seconds to be able to answer. When she could, she said, "You're on the Asuba Research and Archive Complex, in the Dangerous Relics Archive. My name is Yora, and I don't know where your ship is. It was found derelict. You were the only survivor." Yora glanced around as she spoke. Where the trend was Skuggs. She saw his head peeking out from behind the stasis pod. The little jerk was hiding while she talked to the exterminator. Damn it. The whole plan had been his idea. The exterminator considered that. He nodded slowly. "Why are you so afraid, Yora?" Yora blinked. Afraid? Why wouldn't she be afraid of what? "You're terrified of me," the exterminator elaborated. "Any idiot could see that. But you still woke me up, with no backup on that little furry thing hiding over there." He pointed at Skuggs. "Cute little guy. Do you think he'd mind if I pet him?" You can do whatever you want," Skuggs stammered. "Just please don't kill me." The exterminator regarded the archivist for a long moment. Then he sighed. Damn. I don't think that counts as consent." He turned back to Yora. "Anyway, I don't see a bunch of scientists, diplomats, or military types. Just a scared girl and even more scared talking cat guy. That tells me that you're doing this on your own, and you're doing it because you're desperate." "Yeah," Yora coughed. "Yes, the Zakthar have reached the station. You're our only hope." "The what now?" The exterminator frowned. Then he held up a hand. "Hold on. Let me take a look." The exterminator's eyes went glassy. He was still there for several seconds. Then he said, "Oh, damn. Ugly bastards, aren't they?" Yora blinked again. "What?" "I hacked your station," the exterminator explained. "How do you think I learned your language? It'd still be faster to have you explain than to try and go through the data myself. So what are the Zakthar and why are they here?" "The Zakthar are a fungal animal hybrid species," Yora told him. "We don't know where they came from, but they can grow ships and organic versions of advanced technology. They're clearly sapient, but all attempts to communicate with them have failed. They go from world to world, consuming everything and converting the biomass into more of themselves. I don't know if they're just here to eat us or if they want something else." "And you woke me up so I could stop them," the exterminator guessed. "Is that it?" I think so." She pointed at the archivist. "It was Skuggs' plan." "Skuggs, huh?" The exterminator turned to the archivist. Is that the plan, Scuggs? You're hoping I'll save your station?
If possible, said the archivist. At the very least, I thought that you could...
The Hiffle broke off with a squeak as he dived back behind the pod. There was a screech of taut metal. The security door. One of the Zaktha ripped its way into the room. The Zaktha had many shapes. This particular one was a squat quadruped that came up to Yora's waist. Its 4 legs ended in vicious claws. Its heavy jaws were as wide as Yora was. Its teeth were curved, slimy, and as long as her fingers. The monster took half the second to focus on the 3 of them. Then it leapt at Yora. She screamed, raising her hands in a useless attempt to stave off death. Death didn't come. The exterminators punched the Zaktha so hard it dented the bulkhead it crashed into. The exterminator pulled out a blaster with a barrel 8 centimeters wide. He wielded the heavy-looking thing with one hand. A bolt of blue light flashed out. The Zaktha exploded. More of the monsters poured in. The exterminator killed them in seconds. Large clawed hands ripped the security door off its hinges. A bipedal Zaktha crouched to enter the room. The monster was 3 meters tall with 4 arms. 2 of those arms ended in plasma cannons. The exterminator blew it apart, but not before it could get a shot off. A bolt of sickly green light slammed into the exterminator, or rather slammed into an invisible plane of force several centimeters in front of him. A force field? The exterminators had personal shields? Yora had never heard of such a thing. The exterminator swore. He looked back at Yora, still blasting Zaktha apart. The exterminator snatched up a small object off his belt. Here, he barked. He tossed her the disc. Hold this, Scuggs. Stand next to her. Yora caught the disc. Scuggs started between her legs. The moment he arrived, the semi-transparent bubble shimmered into place around both of them. He had another personal shield. No. The Terran had given her his only one. The exterminator kept shooting. Green metal flowed from his armor. It covered his arms. More metal covered his head, forming a helmet. The Zaktha were coming faster now, squealing and shooting. The blast knocked the exterminator around and cinched his armor, but he did not die. Stay here, he barked at Yora. The exterminator strode forward. 2 small boxy objects raised up out of the shoulders of the armor. The still boxes spat a screaming torrent of lances of yellow light. That's right, bitches, the exterminator thundered. Come and get some unspecified amount. The monstrous man drew an even bigger gun off his back and strode into the hallway like a tide of death.
Galiba preserve us,
Yora swore. She looked down at the shaking Scuggs.
I can see why they're called exterminators.
Yora waited, listening to gunfire and the screams of dying Zaktha. It went on for some time. After what felt like an hour, the sound ceased. The exterminator walked calmly back into the room. His armor was cinched and dented, but he didn't seem much worse for wear. The metal retreated from his arms and head. More are coming, the exterminator told them. But we've got a few minutes. He pointed at the archivist. You're Scuggs, right? Scuggs hid behind Yora's legs.
Yes?
Oh, for, the exterminator rolled his eyes. Look, you don't gotta be scared of me. I'm mostly, he frowned, okay? I'm not harmless at all, but I'm not gonna hurt you unless you give me a good reason, all right? You're safe, okay, you little guy?
Safe?
The Hiffle stammered.
I don't feel safe.
You're safe, the exterminator said firmly. I won't let anyone hurt you. Humans have a weakness for cute, fuzzy animals, sapient or not. He flashed a grin at Yora. It's almost as big as our weakness for beautiful women. Beautiful woman? Oh, no. The exterminator really did want to meet with her. Relax, Yora, the exterminator told her. I can see that my handsomeness has left you all aflutter, but now's not the time to flirt. You're safe too, by the way. His gaze moved to Scruggs. There's no saving the station. Those things have killed almost everyone. We need a way out of here. Yora doesn't know where my ship is. Do you, little guy?
Yes.
Scuggs cleared his throat and straightened his tail, gathering what posed as courage in a Hiffle.
Yes. It's on the station. Research Bay Ziga 4.
Ziga 4. The exterminator space went blank again. Got it. Let's go.
Go?
Asked Scuggs.
Exterminator, that ship is on the other end of the station, 20 kilometers away, and it's badly damaged. Inoperable.
Don't worry too much, Scuggs. The exterminator chided, his brow furrowed. Wait, what did you call me?
Scuggs quailed and didn't answer. Yora stepped in. He called you Exterminator. That's what you're called, right?
No, the exterminator snorted. Well, it might be what you guys call us. We're humans. He held out a hand. The name's Shobe. Jack Shobe. Yora regarded the exterminator's outstretched hand. She attempted to mirror the gesture. The exterminator reached over and clasped his hand over hers. She gasped. but he was just gently raised and lowered her hand. Once, twice, then let go. It's nice to meet you, Yora. He held out a hand, put to Skuggs, and the little archivist skidded back in fear. Fair enough, Skuggs, the exterminator shrugged. It's nice to meet you too. His eyes turned to Yora. Hold on to the shield generator and keep the little guy close. This is going to be a long walk, and it's going to get messy. But stay behind me. I'll keep you safe. He unholstered his gun and strode out of the room. Come on, people. Let's get to my ship. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members, Casper Arnholt, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.